Number three, you know, we have co-ops in the state, some of which predate all of this stuff we're talking about, that find a way to bring energy and electricity to the members of the co-ops seamlessly. And they don't feel the need to drop the book of Deuteronomy into the state code, okay? Read the bill you're voting on. Some of the brightest minds in Virginia wrote that legislation, okay? It wasn't the governor. I got news for you.
So, Mr. President, I will go through and say that, and it's one thing to say, and when you start comparing Virginia's rates to the rest of the nation's rates, then you better stop and look at the investor-owned utility rates vis-a-vis the co-op rates. And nowhere is that more dramatic than in Northern Virginia. And the rates that the people pay in Loudoun County vis-a-vis the rates that people pay in Fairfax County. Loudoun County is under the Northern Virginia Electric Co-op. Pays significantly more residential rates than the people that live a mile away in Fairfax County. So if we start examining, we start looking, and I heard this, well, we don't have this problem with co-ops. Maybe we ought to start looking at co-ops and asking ourselves why those rates are so much higher. Maybe that's food for next year. I don't know. I do resent the remarks I heard from the senator from Chesterfield.
For what purpose is the senator from Bath? Senator Deeds rise.
Mr. President, on a point of personal privilege,
Senator has the floor.
though I can't compare with the wit or shine of my friend from Eastern Fairfax. On Friday, we had a discussion about electric power, and I know some things were said about co-ops. And I just wanted to talk a little bit about my co-op story. I've been a member of a co-op my entire life. I do a little work for a co-op, and all of you I know have been to Bath County because that's where we're proud to host caucus retreats at the Homestead. And on the way there, you get a feeling for what rural really is all about. But when you get there, you know you're going to be comfortable. You know you're going to have hot water and you're going to have air conditioning. And this time of year, you're going to have heat. But not long ago, those things were luxuries in Bath County. Mr. President, my parents, both of whom were born in Bath County, were not born in a world where electricity was an assumed part of life. Although nearby cities like Stanton, Charlottesville, and Roanoke were electrified by the turn of the century, it wasn't until 40 years later, in 1939, that electricity reached my tiny hamlet of Millboro. In 1939, BARC Electric Cooperative connected its first member, my grandfather, Cree Tyree. Now, he was the chairman of the Democratic Committee, and I want you to know that the chairman of the Board of Supervisors House was second, but the chairman of the Democratic Committee was first. Our co-ops brought affordable and reliable electricity to all the places in Virginia where investor-owned utilities, what we were talking about the other day, said it couldn't be done. Mr. President, our co-ops are again stepping up to meet the needs of rural Virginia. My own co-op, BARC, built the first and only community solar project in the Commonwealth in Rockbridge County and recently completed in Bath County the largest public school solar project in the state, and is currently building high-speed fiber optic internet throughout its territory, making fiber to the home service available to rural residents the same way it made electricity available in 1939. And that's what makes co-ops different, Mr. President. They're more than just a power provider. They're part of the community, striving to improve the quality of life for its customer owners. In addition to being regulated by the State Corporation Commission, each co-op is regulated locally by a board of directors who are members of the co-op and are elected by the other members. You don't have to be an economist to understand that it costs more to serve 6 people per mile than it does to serve 20 people per mile. When you have fewer customers, fewer people to spread the cost over, each person's costs are naturally going to be higher. But if you look closely at the cooperatives' rates, like BARC's, you'll find that they are unbelievably competitive considering the geographic challenges, the terrain, and the customer density. So let's remember this, Mr. President, when we talk about electric rates in co-op territories, let's also remember why co-ops exist in the first place, not only to provide electricity, but to improve the quality of life in the communities they serve. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank the senator. What purpose is the senator from Augusta? Senator Hanger rise.
Mr. President, a brief point of personal privilege.
Senator has the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the Senate. I was hesitant to rise now that the senator from Bath has addressed the rural cooperatives, but I had been asked, as well as the senator from Fauquier, to make just a couple brief remarks in support of them after the cooperatives were discussed in relationship to the debate last week on investor-owned utilities. And I just wanted to add, I was hesitant then to get up after the senator from Bath made his remarks, but after the senator from Eastern Fairfax in his somewhat devilish attire wasted 10 minutes of our time, I said, well, why not? I would just add just a couple of things. In fact, I have a neighbor. Well, he's not a neighbor now. He owns property adjacent to me, and some of his family live there, who actually lives in the senator from Eastern Fairfax's district. But he was involved in the establishment of rural cooperatives back in the early days of the cooperatives. They were started about the 1940s. But at that time, and this gentleman's name is Manley Garber, and he has been on the board of directors for an electric co-op for the last 68 years. When he first started and was instrumental in putting together the cooperatives that serve a lot of the Northern Virginia area and the Prince William, Fauquier, and all those areas, the population of Augusta County was 43,000. The population of Fairfax County was 41,000. And the population of Prince William County was 18,000. So a lot has changed over that time. But one thing hasn't changed, Mr. President. The cooperatives are there to serve rural Virginia. They serve a constituency where they have about 7 subscribers per mile. So it's a little different than the urban centers that are supported by the investor-owned utility. So I rise today to commend our electric cooperatives. Thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the senator.